Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we are going to be talking about 5 books that I would sell my absolute soul to read again for the first time. So these 5 books are all books that I gave 5 stars. They are books that I absolutely love and they are all-time favorites. And they are all also ones that I had absolutely amazing reading experiences for, where not only is the book 5 stars, but the actual reading experiences. A lot of these books have twists that I was not expecting, or had things that just, when you read it for the first time, you're so excited to learn about. And it has like big reveals and things that even when you read it a second time, you still love the book, but you don't get those same big reveals feelings because you know what's coming. I have 5 books to share with you and we're just gonna go through them. So the first book that I have is one that doesn't really have like a big reveal in it, but it's a book that I absolutely love. It's one that was on my top 10 of the year in 2020, I think. When I read this book, it was 2020, and this one is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This book is not a romance. It has a romance in it, but I would not classify this book as a romance. I don't know what I would actually classify this book as. If somebody knows, please let me know, because I have a horrible time explaining this book every time I talk about it, but it is an absolutely fantastical, magical book, and it is about a hero who works for a government agency and is told that he has to go and inspect basically a orphanage that is on this sort of island. And he is a very by the book, textbook kind of guy. He is a paper pusher who just follows the code of ethics. He has a very strict like morals of what he thinks is right and wrong, and it's very textbook. He has not had a lot of outward experiences. He has those like dreams of someday kind of having a vacation or an adventure, but right now he's very stuck, I would say. And he's given this assignment to go to this magical orphanage where all of the children at this orphanage are very different. They are different than even other magical beings. They don't fit the book, basically. Well, let's go with that. They don't fit the book. And this man goes to this orphanage and he has his entire life experience, worldview changed by being at this orphanage and meeting these children and meeting the caretaker of the orphanage, who he does end up having a male-male romance with. So it does have a little bit of a romance, but it's definitely not the focus. But this book just hit me so hard. I read it at the absolute perfect time, and it was a reading experience like no other. And it was that perfect book for the time, for the place that I was in, for the mental state that I was in. And I underlined quotes in this book, which is something that I very rarely do, and it just blew my mind. And I have reread it once since then. I still gave it 5 stars. I still absolutely love it, but that reading experience, that first time reading it and experiencing it and having that like utter change of mental state, I would absolutely give so much to experience that again for the first time, and that is why this is on this list. The next one that I have is one that does have a big reveal in it, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So if you don't know what this book is, I don't know what you've been doing, because it's everywhere and has been since it came out. So I read it for the first time, I think also in 2020. I think this is another one that was on my top 10 of 2020, I'm pretty sure. And this one is a fantasy romance, and it's about a heroine whose name is Poppy, who is what's known as the Maiden. She doesn't really know what this means. All she knows is that the elders, or like the people of her world, have told her that she is essential for the survival of their world. And by being the maiden, it means that she is not allowed to have normal experiences. She's not allowed to talk to the average person. She has to even wear a veil in public. They can't see her face. So she is a very fiery character, Poppy, and she doesn't love the existence that she has as the maiden, and so one night she decides that she wants to have a real experience, and so she sneaks out, she wears a mask, and she goes to this basically like pub where she ends up sharing a kiss with a man while she's there. And then the next day she wakes up and that man that she had kissed is her new bodyguard. His name is Hawk. They're constantly stuck together and they end up starting a romance basically. And so this is a fantasy romance. It is an amazing fantasy romance, but I was shook reading this by everything that came about in just this book. Like, I love the second book also. I haven't read the third book yet. I've just not been in the right headspace for it, but I loved book 2 also. But this one I was reading along with and just being like, it was the experience when you're reading kind of like a thriller or something, or a suspense where you're trying to like guess who the killer is. Well, this was like that, where I was like trying to guess the plot of like where it was going to go and everything in this fantasy, and I had an absolutely amazing time with it. I love this book and I have reread it maybe 4 times, but reading that first time and not knowing what was going to happen or who anyone was or what it meant to be Poppy, who Poppy actually was, it was shocking and exciting, and I loved it. The next one that I have is another one that actually doesn't have like a big reveal in it, but it is an amazing book, and that is Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. This one was my first big introduction into dark romance or taboo romance. I had never really read anything like taboo or dark, and then I jumped right into the fucking deep end with Welcome to the Dark Side, with this like 20-something year age gap motorcycle club romance that I was obsessed with, still am obsessed with. This was also on my top 10 of the year. I don't remember when I read it. I actually think it was 2020. Oh my gosh, all of these books I read in 2020. So this one is still my favorite Fallen Men book, and this is a story about a heroine named Lou, who is the mayor's daughter, and she is 17 years old, and she ends up having a romance with Zeus, who is the head of a motorcycle club, and he is old. I don't know how old he is. He's in his 30s, late 30s, I think. I think he's like 37, 30 something. He's like 20-something years older than her. This book starts with Zeus and Lou meeting when Lou is very, very young. I think she's like 7 years old, something. She's like very young, and she and Zeus meet in a very violent moment where Zeus protects her. And then Zeus, after this moment, he ends up actually going to prison, and Lou writes letters to him while he's in prison. And this relationship is a very like protective relationship. Lou looks at Zeus as kind of like a best friend, a protector, and he is one of the only people that actually understands her as a person. Lou feels very lost, and Zeus is there to very much help her and see her. And this romance was absolutely beautiful. It was not something that I was able to like expect going into. It was something that I was like so scared I was gonna be repulsed by, and I loved this. It was so much more than I was expecting it to be. I was expecting to be like weirded out. I was not. It is romantic. It is hard-hitting. The things that Lou deals with in this book, aside from the romance, is just utterly beautiful, and she is a fighter, and I love her. And reading this again for the first time would be like mind-blowing. Okay, the next one that I have is actually one that I just read in 2022. I read it towards the end of 2022, actually, and it was on my top 22 of 2022, and that is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This book is a historical pirate dark romance, and it is about a heroine named Bennett, who is the daughter of a very notorious pirate and now a pirate captain herself, and she gets kidnapped by a pirate hunter named Ashley, and they end up having a romance. But this is a non-traditional, like, just MF romance. I was so surprised by the way that the romance went in this book. I did not know going into it what was to be expected. I am not going to say it in this video because I think that you should experience it without knowing, but I was so excited by the way that this relationship went. I was excited by the way the plot went. I loved all of the characters. I loved how resilient Bennett was and such a badass. I loved the way that her relationship developed with Ashley and their like trauma that they went through and how it very much bonded them. My cat's meowing, I'm sorry, you can hear that. But this book was stunningly beautiful. Pam Godwin's writing is just beyond words, and I would absolutely love to experience this again for the first time, even though I just read it recently. Okay, so the last books that I have on this list is a series, and it is actually the books that inspired this video, and that is the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So my best friend in real life has just started recently reading these books after literally years of me telling her that she needs to. And she was reading ACOTAR, and she just finished ACOMAF recently, and seeing her experience these books for the first time without knowing what was going to happen was so exciting to me. Just like secondhand of me watching her reactions and her texting me about it and her talking about like her love of Tamlin in book 1, and then how everything, like constant text messages during her reading of Mist and Fury and everything that she was like experiencing. And I have reread this series repeatedly. I read this series for the first time in 2019, I think. I read it. I remember exactly where I was when I read it. I was on my bed in my apartment in Ireland, and my friends were going out to the pubs, and I was like, I can't go. I have to finish this book. And it was me finishing ACOMAF specifically on that day was me finishing ACOMAF, and I was like, I gotta stay. I gotta finish this book. And all my friends kind of laughing at me and being like, all right. But this series is just a full standout in my mind. It will constantly be a favorite series of mine. These books were literally life-changing to me, and being able to go back and experience the arc of this story, of Feyre's journey, of the romances that she experiences, the trauma that she experiences, the overcoming of that trauma, the being stronger because of it, and the family relationships that she develops, and the found family that she develops, and everything that is within this series. It truly is, to me, as good as everyone says it is. It lived up to the hype. It lives up to the hype, and my friend is loving it. And so rereading this for the first time would be everything. So if you have not picked up this series, please do it. It is as good as everyone says it is. And I love it more than words. That is going to be it for this video. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down in the comments below what would be some books that are on your list, or if you agree or relate to any of the books that I talked about. But that's going to be it for this video. So please like it if you liked it, and subscribe so you can see more content from me. And I hope that you have the absolute best day.